Welcome to Crisis in Perception, where we examine the systems that shape our world. Today, we're digging into Eric Hoffer's incredible book, The True Believer. We're going to use it as a kind of structural model to really understand how mass movements work, how they recruit people, how they get them mobilized, and how they sustain that powerful belief.
So, what we're going to do is use the key insights from Hoffer's work to build a really clear, systems-level understanding of this whole phenomenon. We're going to look right past the specific doctrines and slogans to see the engine that's running underneath it all.
Okay, let's get right into it. Here's our game plan. We'll start with the core mechanism, then explore what pulls people in and what comes out of it. After that, we'll look at why this pattern keeps repeating, and finally, we'll connect it all to the world around us.
So, first things first, the system. We need to get a really clear picture of what a mass movement actually is at its most basic level, beyond all the flags and chants.
Here's Hoffer's big idea. He says a mass movement isn't really about its philosophy or its goals. At its core, it's a functional system. Think of it like an identity transfer mechanism. Its main appeal is that it offers people an escape route from a life they see as spoiled or frustrating.
And this is where it gets super interesting. Look at this comparison. A normal organization, like a company or a standard political party, appeals to your self-interest, getting ahead, making more money. But a mass movement? It does the exact opposite. It appeals to this deep-seated passion to renounce yourself, to escape the self altogether.
Okay, so if the big draw isn't making your own life better, then what is it? That brings us to the incentive. What's the actual appeal here that gets people to sign up for this system of self-sacrifice?
This quote gets right to the heart of it. For someone who feels like their life is a total failure, individual freedom, well, it's not a gift. It's actually a huge burden. Why? Because when you have freedom of choice, it means the blame for your failure falls right on your own shoulders.
And wow, this quote just drives the point home, doesn't it? This young guy wasn't trying to be clever. The movement offers this incredibly powerful, almost intoxicating release from all the weight and all the responsibility of being a unique, accountable person.
So, at its heart, the deal the movement offers is this simple but unbelievably powerful trade. You hand over your flawed, lonely, individual self, and in exchange, you get to become a part of something huge, something perfect, something that feels like it will last forever. Now, Hoffer points to certain groups that are most likely to be drawn in. And listen, this isn't a moral judgment on them. It's a structural observation. People like the new poor, who've lost everything, or social misfits, or even just people who are intensely, profoundly bored. They're the ones most likely to feel like their individual lives have gone wrong, and to crave that powerful sense of a fresh start. So what happens when somebody takes that deal? Well, the system starts producing a very specific kind of person. This brings us to the outcome, a new, powerful unity, and the forging of what Hoffer calls the true believer.
To really get what's happening here, we can use a structural metaphor that Hoffer's work gives us. A mass movement acts like a psychological furnace.
Okay, so picture this furnace. It takes all that raw fuel of personal frustration and intense emotion, and the heat just melts down your individual identity. And what comes out of that process? A brand new, uniform collective identity that's completely bonded to the cause.
And what comes out the other side? Well, it's shockingly predictable, and it doesn't matter if the movement is religious or social or nationalist. You get fanaticism, this burning hope for the future, a deep hatred for anyone on the outside, and this absolute readiness to die for the cause.
The fact that these outcomes are so consistent points to a common engine, right? So this leads to our next question. Why does this whole pattern keep repeating itself all throughout history, just with different banners and different slogans?
I mean, this is the question, isn't it? If you look at communism, fascism, and all these different radical movements, their stated goals and beliefs are worlds apart. So why do their followers so often act in these uncannily similar ways? The answer, it turns out, is in the engine itself.
And Hoffer's answer is just brilliant. He says, look, the specific cause, the ideology, is often secondary. It's just the window dressing. The real driver is that pre-existing psychological need for an escape. The frustrated person is just looking for a vehicle, any powerful vehicle, that will let them renounce themselves.
This leads to a pretty stunning insight. All mass movements are basically in competition with each other, all fighting for the same pool of frustrated people. And even more wild, they're interchangeable. A hardcore follower can drop one holy cause and pick up a totally different one almost overnight, because that underlying engine, that desperate need to escape the self, it stays exactly the same. The need is the constant, not the belief.
All right, let's pull back and look at the big picture. How does this whole psychological system actually connect to the wider world? This is where the model becomes a really powerful tool for helping us see things more clearly.
And this is where we run into a real crisis in perception. If we spend all our time just arguing about a movement's stated beliefs, its ideology, we completely miss the deeper, universal machine that's actually at work. It's like arguing about the car's paint job while totally ignoring the engine.
Hoffer even lays out a pretty common pattern for how the fuel for this engine gets made. He says it often starts with men of words, think intellectuals, artists, critics, who tear down the current way of things. This creates a vacuum, a real hunger for a new faith among people who feel disillusioned. And that's when a fanatical leader can step in and harness all that energy to build something new and unified.
But you gotta remember, this engine needs fuel. It doesn't just start up in a vacuum. Things like the breakdown of communities and families, major economic or political instability, a widespread feeling of alienation, and a deep loss of trust in our institutions, these are the conditions that create those frustrated individuals to begin with. They provide the raw material that a mass movement needs to catch fire.
You know, Hoffer's framework isn't just a history lesson. It's a powerful lens we can use to look at our world right now, and it leaves us with this really important question. What modern systems, whether they're big or small, political or even commercial, are shaping our beliefs today by offering that same powerful escape from the self? Crisis in Perception examines how systems shape belief, and how better tools help us see clearly. This project is free and publicly accessible. If you'd like to support the time, tools, and research behind Crisis in Perception, you can become a supporter on Patreon. For a longer, audio-based analysis of this topic, see the deep dive linked in the description. If you enjoy this kind of systems-level analysis, please like, subscribe, and comment with books or topics you'd like us to explore next.